Welcome to this explainer. Today we're holding up a psychological mirror to something deeply uncomfortable. We're going to explore that exhausting, internal tug-of-war of emotional polarity. You know the exact feeling I'm talking about. It's that quiet, isolating sense that no matter how you show up in the world, no version of yourself ever feels quite right. You're just caught between two completely extreme states of being. Let's break down exactly why this happens.
Do you ever feel like you're either completely overwhelming people or you're just entirely invisible? It's like living your life on a split screen. On one side, you have these moments where you're really animated and expressive, but then you get this awful sinking feeling that you're just way too intense for the room. And on the flip side, you go completely silent. You fade into the background and you feel utterly ignored. It's a deeply uncomfortable duality, and your daily experience just becomes this constant quiet struggle to express yourself without feeling fundamentally misunderstood.
Think about that too much side first. This is when you're sharing your thoughts, you're over-explaining, carrying this warm but slightly anxious, overwhelming energy. And when you express yourself like this, it feels like an avalanche. You might even actually notice people physically pulling back from you. But then, to protect yourself, you swing all the way to the too little side. You stay quiet, you don't speak up. You literally just fade into the background. But when you hold back like that, it feels like nothing at all. You're left feeling totally disconnected, trapped in this weird space where literally no version of yourself feels correct or safe.
So what's actually happening internally? Well, this emotional polarity turns your mind into a constant echoing argument. It usually kicks off the second you leave a social interaction, with this loud, anxious inner critic that immediately attacks you. Why did you say so much? The very second you show excitement or intensity, or honestly just your genuine personality, that voice kicks in. It creates this overwhelming sense of regret and discomfort, basically making you feel like your natural expressiveness is somehow a burden to everyone around you.
But then, almost immediately, the echo overlaps with the other side of your confusion. Why didn't you say anything? This is what happens when you try to protect yourself by staying quiet. You avoid eye contact, you withdraw, and then you just beat yourself up for being invisible. You're trapped in this painful negotiation. Your mind is endlessly debating between wanting to actually be seen for who you truly are and desperately needing to be accepted. And it really feels like you can never, ever have both at the same time.
The root of the pattern, unpredictable acceptance. Let's look at where this exhausting cycle actually comes from. This cycle of constant adjustment doesn't just start out of nowhere. It's a learned behavior. If you look back at your early childhood, maybe you expressed some really big emotions and were immediately told you're too sensitive. So by school age, you decided, okay, I'll stay quiet, only to find yourself completely ignored. Then in your teens, you try being enthusiastic again, and you're told to calm down. Fast forward to young adulthood, you try to be low maintenance, and you end up entirely overlooked in group settings. When we look at this history, we can see exactly how your early environment taught you a really painful lesson. Your natural, authentic self wasn't received this same way every time. Sometimes you were too much, and other times you were simply not enough.
Because of that deep unpredictability in your environment, your brain had to adapt just to survive. It basically created a switching system. Step 1, you express yourself, but you face rejection or discomfort. So, the brain flips the switch to Step 2. You withdraw, but now you're facing total invisibility and isolation. Desperate for connection, you flip the switch again to Step 3. You overcompensate. You try to force your way back into the dynamic, and you just end up feeling intensely awkward. Your brain is essentially glitching between these two extreme survival modes, constantly testing each extreme until something, anything, works to keep you safe.
And that brings us to the exhausting reality of this adult life loop. You are constantly adjusting, but you're never landing. Think about how this actually plays out in real life. You're out with friends, you hold back because you don't want to be too much, but then you feel completely ignored. So the next time you hang out, you overcompensate so they'll notice you, but then you just feel awkward and loud. You keep calibrating yourself, a little less here, a little more there, flickering back and forth. But the system never fully works. You never actually find a baseline where you can just exist.
Eventually, all this constant calibration leads you to a breaking point. You start asking, who am I really? Imagine looking into a mirror and the reflection looking back at you simply doesn't match your behavior. You have these two versions of yourself standing there, the loud one and the quiet one, and neither of them feels like the truth. When your internal reality no longer matches your external behavior, you realize this isn't just about social discomfort anymore, it's profound, deep-seated identity confusion. You spent so long adjusting to other people that you've totally lost the core of who you are.
Let's break down exactly why this identity confusion happens. First off, you're no longer reacting to the present moment. When you're in a conversation, you aren't actually fully present with that other person.
Second, you are entirely reacting to the fear of being wrong. Every single interaction becomes a defensive reaction. It's a calculated move to avoid either rejection or invisibility. And because of that, you're losing your true baseline. You lose sight of your authentic self because genuine expression has been entirely replaced by a survival performance. A shift in perspective. The environment versus you. So how do we actually stop fighting ourselves?
There is a critical realization you absolutely must take away from this explainer today. You were never too much. All that warm, saturated, intense energy you bring, the passion, the expressiveness, the sharing of your thoughts, that was never inherently bad or broken. You were simply highly expressive in the wrong environment. You were surrounded by people or in situations that just didn't have the capacity to hold your energy. The flaw was never in your volume. The flaw was in their reception.
And the exact same logic applies to the other side of the coin. You were never not enough. The quiet truth is that your silence, your observation, your ability to step back, these are also incredibly valid parts of who you are. You were just being quiet in a world that consistently failed to notice subtlety. You existed in environments that required you to be loud just to prove your worth. Your quietness wasn't a lack of value, it was simply invisible to those who weren't paying close enough attention.
We have to compare the feeling with the reality here. The feeling you carry around every single day is, I am broken and flawed. I don't fit anywhere. But the objective psychological reality is, I was adapting and surviving. If this psychological mirror feels uncomfortably accurate right now, remember that this emotional polarity is not a symptom of a broken personality. It is absolute proof that your brain was brilliantly adapting to an unpredictable, inconsistent world. You were doing exactly what you needed to do to survive.
Which leaves us with one final deeply important question. What happens when you stop fighting your own pattern? As the psychology behind Bash Brains highlights, once you finally understand that your shifting behavior was a brilliant adaptation rather than a fundamental flaw, that internal war can end. You can finally stop fighting yourself. The two extremes can start to merge into a balanced present reality. So I'll leave you with this to think about. Who will you be, and what will your life look like now that you finally understand you no longer have